The Vrelian ambush came without warning. Captain Ellen Rowe had been escorting the refugee convoy through the Ashmar corridor when the first plasma bolt tore through the transport's hull. Alarms shrieked. The convoy scattered like startled birds, but the civilian vessel, the one carrying the Kresh cubs, took a direct hit to its stabilizers. Ellen didn't think. She never did when lives were on the line. She punched the emergency override, detaching her fighter from formation, and screamed toward the crippled transport. Through her viewport she could see them, 6 Kresh cubs pressed against the viewing glass, their luminous eyes wide with terror. The Kresh were a young species, barely a century into spaceflight, and these cubs, refugees from the Vrelian genocide, were all that remained of the Talus colony. Another plasma bolt lanced toward the transport. Ellen threw her fighter into its path. The impact was catastrophic. Her shields exploded in a cascade of failing energy fields. Metal screamed. The cockpit filled with smoke and the acrid stench of burning circuitry. Her console lit up red. Structural failure, life support compromised. Engines dead. But the transport was intact. Through the haze of pain and failing systems, Ellen saw the emergency pods deploying from the transport. 6 small shapes ejected into the void, their distress beacons flaring to life. The Kresh cubs would survive. That was all that mattered. Her fighter tumbled through space, spinning toward the debris field of a shattered moon. Ellen tried to move, but her body wouldn't respond. Something warm trickled down her face. Her vision blurred. The last thing she heard before unconsciousness took her was the distorted hiss of the Vrelian commander over the open channel. The human is neutralized. Recover the Kresh spawn. High Command wants them alive. Tern watched the human's fighter spiral into darkness. He was the smallest of the 6 cubs, barely old enough to have shed his birth markings. The other cubs huddled together in their emergency pod, keening in distress, but Tern remained silent. His large amber eyes tracked the Vrelian warships as they moved to intercept the pods. The human had saved them. Tern had seen Captain Rowe aboard the transport during the loading procedures. She had knelt to his level, something most species didn't bother doing, and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're safe now," she had said, her voice gentle despite the exhaustion etched into her features. "I promise." Humans made promises differently than other species. The galactic community had learned this over the decades since first contact. When a human made a promise, they carved it into their very souls. They would bleed for it, die for it. Captain Rowe had kept her promise. The Vrelian boarding craft clamped onto their pod. Mechanical locks engaged with heavy thuds. Tern felt his siblings press closer together, their fear pheromones thick in the recycled air. The hatch opened. 3 Vrelian soldiers entered, their chitinous armor gleaming under harsh white lights. They were apex predators, 8 feet of scaled muscle and razor claws evolved from ambush hunters on a death world. They had spent the last 6 months exterminating Tern's people. "Secure the spawn," the lead soldier growled, its translator rendering the words in cold, clinical galactic standard. High Command wants to study their neural pathways before processing them for biomatter. The other cubs whimpered. Tern remained still. The soldiers moved forward, extending restraint collars. One reached for Tern's eldest sister, Mara. She flinched away, and the Vrelian struck her across the face. She collapsed with a cry. Something changed in Tern. The fear didn't disappear. It transmuted, crystallized into something harder, colder. He thought of Captain Rowe's fighter, broken and tumbling into the void. He thought of her promise. He thought of the Talus colony, his parents, his teachers, his friends, reduced to ash and memory. The Vrelian soldier reached for him. Tern looked up into its multifaceted eyes and spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "We're going to hunt them all." The soldier paused. Its translator struggled with the statement, cycling through interpretations. Then it laughed, a clicking, chittering sound. "The spawn speaks. How amusing." But Tern wasn't finished. The human kept her promise. "She saved us, and humans have another saying." His voice remained soft, but something in his tone made the other cubs stop whimpering, made the Vrelian soldiers shift uncomfortably. "They say, fuck around and find out." The lead soldier's amusement died. It raised its weapon toward Tern's head. "Enough. You will—" The pod's emergency beacon changed frequency. It wasn't a distress call anymore. It was a homing signal. The Vrelian warships detected them 3 seconds later, 16 human dreadnoughts dropping out of faster-than-light travel with the fury of a dying star. The Terran Defense Fleet had arrived, and they had received Captain Rowe's final transmission. Her fighter's black box, broadcasting on emergency channels even as it tumbled through space. The battle lasted 7 minutes. The Vrelians fought with the desperation of predators who had suddenly become prey. The humans fought with something worse, controlled rage, precise, methodical, unforgiving. When the last Vrelian warship detonated, the debris field stretched across 10,000 kilometers. Terran stood in the medical bay of the TDF flagship Indomitable, watching through the observation window as doctors worked on Captain Ellen Rowe. They had recovered her fighter from the debris field. Against all probability, against all logic, she had survived. Barely. The chief medical officer approached Tern, kneeling to his level. "She's stable," the doctor said softly. "It'll take time, but she'll recover." Tern nodded slowly. Behind him, his siblings clustered together, finally safe. Around the medical bay, human crew members moved with quiet efficiency, their faces hard but their hands gentle when they interacted with the creche cubs. "What you said to those Vrelian soldiers," the doctor continued. "Did you mean it?" Tern looked up at the human. His amber eyes held something new, something that hadn't existed in his species before this day. Purpose, determination, wrath. "Yes," Tern whispered. "The galaxy thinks the creche are extinct. Let them think it. We will grow. We will learn. And when we are ready, when Captain Rowe teaches us everything humans know about keeping promises, we will find every Vrelian who participated in the genocide." The doctor studied the small cub for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "That's a dark path, kid." "The human took the hit to shield a cub," Tern replied. "Now the cubs will take the darkness to shield others. The Vrelians started a war of extinction. We will finish it." Through the observation window, Captain Rowe's eyes flickered open. Even through pain and medication, she managed to turn her head, to see the cub safe and whole. She smiled. And Tern understood that humans didn't just keep promises, they inspired others to make their own. The hunt would begin when the cubs became wolves, and the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest export wasn't technology or culture. It was consequences.